Welcome back and thanks for staying with Newsnight. Now, some big brands in South Africa have been caught funding fake news websites through advertising. A News 24 investigation shows some major banks and insurance companies bought advertising that landed up on dodgy sites. The companies are denying any knowledge and are blaming Google AdSense, a platform that uses algorithms to place ads on websites. To tell us more about this is Worldwide Worx founder and managing director Arthur Goldstuck. Good evening, Arthur. Thanks very much for your time. Look, we're reminded over and over again that our banking system is among the best, in the world. And add to that the fact that, it depends. The banking system now depends heavily on technology. Is it not something that these people ought to have been able to identify from the word go and not wait for a Media 24 investigation?
There's absolutely no question about that. It's something that's been known for a long time. It's not that it's been a secret or never covered or exposed, but this is the first real extensive expose we've seen of it in South Africa, naming names, naming big brands and the like. But the real problem is with the complexity of sites and businesses like Google. They used to say of the banks during the financial crisis, they're too big to fail. Now, with sites like Google, they're too big not to fail. They are so complex that Google's unable to, in fact, manage what's happening on their service manually or through human beings. So they use what they call algorithms, which are formulas that actually test the interests of visitors and then match advertising and add words, especially to the interests of visitors. So anyone can create a news website and sign up to Google's AdSense service. So that service then places ads based on people's interests being matched with what's on the website itself. And the more traffic the website gets, the more advertising Google pushes onto those sites. So the real issue, the fundamental issue, is that Google wants to own the world's advertising. So it'll go to almost any lengths to attract that advertising. And it doesn't pay too much attention to where the advertising actually lands.
But can these banks and including like cell phone companies and everyone who's been found sort of involved in this, can they really blame Google? Because what happens to, I remember like distance education students would be told that it is your choice to choose the post office for delivering your assignment to us. Now, if the post office doesn't deliver, you can't tell us. That's not our responsibility. It is your responsibility because you chose to you chose the agency to, do this agency to do the work for you.
It's a great analogy, Rio, and I agree with that. It is difficult for them to monitor exactly where the ads appear, but at the same time, they have a responsibility to ensure that it doesn't appear on these kinds of sites. They need to be monitoring, measuring, but also in particular responding to feedback from their own customers who highlight where these ads are appearing. And you cannot tell me that they don't get alerted because people are constantly raising the alarm on Facebook, on Twitter, and other forums. So it's the responsibility of every big brand that's buying these Google AdWords to ensure that they're placed responsibly. So you had a situation with YouTube and Facebook earlier this year where big brands began withdrawing advertising because their ads were being placed with videos that promoted violence and hate speech. And Google very quickly moved to limit the extent to which that could happen on YouTube. But they haven't done enough to limit the appearance of ads that are placed through them on fake news sites. And this is an issue that goes back many years. And they really have to take the responsibility at large. But at the same time, companies whose ads appear there also have to take some responsibility.
I know there's usually a big outcry whenever legislators start talking about regulating the internet. But isn't this one of those examples that perhaps calls for, at the very least, a consideration of that possibility, given even the unintended consequences that things like these can have?
That's a difficult one because the fundamental issue there is to regulate where the ads are appearing And that means having to regulate what kinds of sites can draw advertising. So suddenly you're getting into the realm of censorship. But certainly with fake news, and especially when it's harmful or hate speech or puts people in harm's way, then there are laws to deal with it. But we don't have the capability in our legal system to actually implement those laws in that regard. But if we did, a lot of this problem would go away.
But theoretically, how much liability would a company, have if, for example, it was found to have aided and abetted wrongdoing, even though they may not have been aware of it when it happened?
I would love to see a few test cases in this regard, but we'd like to see it happen first in a place like the United States, which is a more litigious society. People are more willing to sue for that kind of thing. But at the same time, there's also far greater awareness of the damage that's being created by fake news sites and advertising appearing on fake news sites. So we've already seen sites being banned by Google and Facebook, but only after there is a public outcry. And they need to preempt that public outcry by applying what they call their own community standards more vigorously. I do believe that fundamentally they are mostly at fault.
Quick one, from what you've heard, Sin, do you believe that after this expose, these banks and cell phone companies have suddenly woken up to the reality that they may just be in trouble?
No, they've woken up to the reality that they have to spin the responsibility and try and dodge the reality that they've allowed the ads to appear on these sites.
Oh. Arthur, thanks very much.
Thank you, Bia.
For coming through. Worldwide Worx founder and managing director, Arthur Goldstuck.